All right, so you want to unpack the Tate LaBianca murders,
Yeah.
and it's not hard to see why. I mean, in this case, it has like all the ingredients for a true crime deep dive, right? We got Hollywood, we got a charismatic cult leader,
Ooh,
and we
yeah.
got brutal murders that still just shock us today.
I know, it's interesting, isn't it? Like, we're over 50 years removed from these events.
Yeah.
But they haven't just faded into history. They still really grip our imagination, maybe because they feel like, I don't know, like a crack in the facade of the American dream.
Yeah, you're right. There's something about these killings that goes beyond just a typical true crime fascination.
Totally.
So we're digging into the facts here,
Okay.
relying on the documented information from Wikipedia.
Gotcha.
You want the truth, you want the timeline, you want the players. We're delivering that. No speculation needed.
And the truth is chilling enough, I think. These
Yeah.
weren't just random acts of violence, right? The Manson family, led by Charles Manson,
Right.
operated with this disturbing mix of calculation and chaos, something we see clearly in the first of these crimes, the Tate murders.
Okay, so picture this. August 8th, 1969, 150 Cielo Drive,
Okay.
a beautiful home in Benedict Canyon. Inside, you have Sharon Tate, a rising star, 8 months pregnant,
Wow.
with friends. Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger, and Wojciech Frykowski.
Okay.
Roman Polanski, Tate's husband, is out of the country.
Right.
It seems like a typical summer night in Hollywood until...
4 members of the Manson family arrive. Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Linda Kasabian, and Patricia Krenwinkel.
Oh, wow.
They cut the phone line,
Oh, my God.
immediately isolating the house.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, this deliberate act really sets the stage for what's to come.
Yeah.
It's not a spur-of-the-moment decision. There's premeditation here.
It's planned.
It is.
And it's almost like fate steps in, making the situation even more tragic.
Okay.
18-year-old Stephen Parent, a friend of the property's caretaker,
Okay.
is leaving in his car as the family arrives.
Oh, no.
He's confronted by Watson and shot dead. The first victim of that night.
Parents' murder highlights the randomness,
Yeah.
the sheer bad luck that played a part in these events.
Totally.
He had no connection to Tate or her friends.
Right.
He was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Just happened to be there.
Yeah. And yet, his death becomes part of this larger, horrifying narrative.
From there, it seems like the brutality just escalates with each step the family takes.
Oh, yeah.
Watson, Atkins, and Krenwinkel break into the main house. They round up the occupants,
Okay.
forcing them into the living room.
Gosh.
The details of what follows are hard to stomach.
Yeah, the violence goes beyond what's necessary to simply silence the victims, right?
Yeah.
There's a sense of rage,
Well, yeah.
of a desire to inflict pain and terror
Mm.
that's deeply disturbing.
They tie Tate and Sebring together with rope. Sebring protests, trying to protect Tate,
Oh, wow.
and Watson shoots him.
Oh, my gosh.
Folger tries to buy them off with money, but it's no use.
Right.
Frykowski puts up a fight,
Yeah.
even escapes the house for a while.
Wow.
But they catch him and stab him repeatedly.
Oh, my gosh.
And then we have Sharon Tate.
It's hard to imagine.
Imagine being 8 months pregnant, facing these attackers, pleading for your life,
Right.
begging them to let you live long enough to give birth.
It's a horrifying scene.
It is.
Yeah.
She offers herself as a hostage,
Oh, wow.
anything to save her child, but her pleas are ignored.
I can't believe it.
Watson and Atkins stab her 16 times,
It's awful.
ending both her life and the life of her unborn baby.
It's hard to grasp the level of cruelty involved.
I know.
The murder of Sharon Tate in her condition becomes this iconic image of the Manson family's depravity.
Right.
It captures the public's imagination in a way that perhaps no other aspect of this case does.
And before they flee, they leave a chilling message, scrawling the word pig on the front door in Tate's blood.
Oh, my God.
Atkins later claimed she was trying to mimic another murder,
Okay.
framing someone else.
Wow. Which tells you a lot about the Manson family, doesn't it? They weren't just driven by bloodlust.
Okay.
They were manipulative, playing mind games, trying to control the narrative. Even as they unleashed chaos, they understood the power of symbols, of fear, of spectacle.
And this was just the beginning.
Oh, gosh.
The next night, the family, joined by Leslie Van Houten and Clem Grogan, set out again.
All right.
This time, Manson is reportedly unhappy with the previous night's events.
Oh, wow.
He wants to show his followers how to do it,
Oh, God.
leading them to the home of Leno and Rosemary LaBianca.
There's something even more unsettling about the LaBianca murders, isn't there? The sense that Manson saw the previous night as a failure,
Yeah,
that he needed to escalate to make a stronger statement.
right.
It takes the horror to a whole new level.
Agreed.
Yeah.
This time their target is 3301 Waverly Drive,
Okay.
a house Manson had been to before.
Right.
The details are still debated, but it seems clear that Watson, Krenwinkel, and Van Houten are the ones who enter the house and commit the murders.
Manson's exact role in the LaBianca murders remains unclear,
Okay.
but what's undeniable is the level of control and premeditation involved.
Mm-hmm.
It's a meticulously planned act of violence, even more so than the Tate murders.
They find Lino LaBianca asleep and tie him up.
Okay.
Rosemary LaBianca is brought in from the bedroom, and they tie her up as well.
Gosh.
Pillowcases are placed over their heads,
Oh.
secured with lamp cords.
It's so methodical, so cold.
And again, we see this rage, this overkill.
Right.
Lino LaBianca is stabbed multiple times.
Oh, no.
He carved the word war into his abdomen.
It's awful.
Rosemary LaBianca fights back,
Really?
swings a lamp at her attacker.
She fought back.
But she's overpowered and stabbed to death.
The details are gruesome.
They are?
Rosemary LaBianca is stabbed 41 times.
Gosh.
Many of the wounds inflicted after she was already dead.
Oh my goodness.
It's a level of brutality that defies any logical explanation.
And like at the Tate residence, they leave messages written in blood.
Oh, wow.
This time on the walls and refrigerators.
Oh, my gosh.
Rise, death to pigs,
Yeah.
and the misspelled helter-skelter. Chilling echoes of the chaos they're trying to create.
These messages have been endlessly analyzed, haven't they? They're like a window into Manson's twisted worldview.
Yeah.
This apocalyptic vision of race war he called helter-skelter.
Right.
But they also reveal a deep-seated hatred, a desire to shock and terrify.
And just when you think it can't get any more disturbing,
Yeah.
there's one final detail.
Okay.
While some of the family hitchhike back,
Mhm.
Atkins, on her way home, stops at another house and defecates in the stairwell.
What?
It's a seemingly random act,
But it speaks volumes, doesn't it? This act of defilement, this
Right.
disregard for basic societal norms, it perfectly encapsulates the Manson family's mentality. It's
Yeah.
not just about murder.
Right.
It's about rejecting everything decent and embracing chaos.
Right. It's like a punctuation mark on their reign of terror.
Yeah.
And it's only the beginning of this story.
Oh, God.
We've got a long way to go before we fully understand the impact of these crimes.
Indeed. The investigation, the trial, the cultural fallout,
Right.
all of that is still to come.
Yeah.
But before we move on, I think it's important to just acknowledge the sheer horror of what we've just discussed.
You're right. These were real people
Yeah.
with lives and families
Right.
brutally murdered.
It's easy to get caught up in the macabre fascination of this case,
Yeah.
but we can't forget the human cost of these crimes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's hard to fathom, isn't it? How do you even begin to investigate a case like this? You have these gruesome murders, seemingly unconnected victims, and then you throw in this whole apocalyptic cult element.
Yeah. It feels like something out of a movie,
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
But the reality is so much more disturbing.
Right.
So you've got these investigators faced with this puzzle,
Yeah.
and they're just trying to make sense of it all,
Right.
trying to find the pieces that fit.
Exactly. And for a while, it just seemed like an impossible task, you know? The motives were unclear, the brutality was shocking, and there was this real sense of panic in the air.
Yeah.
But then a break came from a surprising source.
Okay.
Susan Atkins, one of the family members involved in the Tate murders, started talking.
Wait, she confessed,
Yeah,
like, while she was in jail for something else.
exactly. She was in custody on an unrelated charge,
Okay.
and she began boasting to her cellmates about the Tate murders.
Oh, wow.
She even took credit for killing Sharon Tate herself.
Oh, my gosh.
These confessions, while they were later contradicted, gave investigators a crucial lead.
It's almost ironic, right?
Yeah.
This desire for notoriety, for infamy, is what ultimately brought them down.
I know, right? Atkins couldn't resist bragging, couldn't help but share her role in these horrific events.
Yeah.
And that slip-up, that need for attention, cracked the case wide open.
So Atkins's confession puts the spotlight on the Manson family. But what about Linda Kasabian, the other woman present at both crime scenes?
Right.
She didn't participate in the murders,
Right.
but she witnessed everything.
Yeah.
What was her role in all of this?
Kasabian's testimony is fascinating.
Yeah.
She was there, she saw it all unfold,
Right.
but she didn't take part in the violence.
Yeah.
And then she made the incredibly brave decision to cooperate with the prosecution.
It must have been terrifying,
Oh, absolutely.
knowing what she knew about the Manson family and then choosing to speak out against them.
Absolutely. Her testimony provided this chillingly detailed account of both nights.
Wow.
It corroborated Atkins's confession and helped paint a picture of how each member of the family was involved.
Yeah.
You've read Kasabian's testimony. What struck you about her account?
I think it's the level of detail, the way she describes the events leading up to the murders.
Yeah.
The atmosphere,
As
the
well.
fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's like reading a first-hand account of a nightmare.
You're right. It goes beyond just the facts of the case.
Oh.
You feel the tension, the escalating chaos, the sense of dread that must have permeated those nights.
Yeah.
And that's what makes her testimony so powerful.
Right.
It's not just a dry recounting of events. It's a window into the darkness that consumed the Manson family.
Okay, so now you have these confessions, eyewitness accounts,
Right.
and a mountain of other evidence.
Yeah.
The trial begins.
Okay.
5 defendants:
Ugh.
Atkins, Krenwinkel, Manson, Van Houten, and Watson.
Wow.
I can only imagine the media frenzy,
Oh, yeah.
the public fascination with this case.
It was huge.
What was the atmosphere like in the courtroom?
It was a spectacle.
Oh, wow.
The trial lasted 9 months.
Wow.
And every detail was splashed across newspapers and TV screens.
Oh, my God.
The Manson family, with their bizarre pronouncements and courtroom antics,
Yeah.
they played right into the media's hands.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was a made-for-TV drama,
Yeah.
but with real lives at stake.
And what about Manson himself?
Right.
He was already this larger-than-life figure, this charismatic cult leader.
Yeah.
How did he behave during the trial?
Manson thrived on the attention.
Yeah.
He saw the trial as another stage to perform, on
Yeah.
another opportunity to spread his twisted message.
Totally.
He frequently disrupted the proceedings, shaved his head, carved an X into his forehead.
Oh, wow.
He was playing a role, trying to control the narrative, even as the evidence against him mounted.
Yeah, it sounds like he was trying to turn the trial into a circus, right?
Exact.
To undermine the gravity of the charges against him and his followers.
Exactly. He understood the power of spectacle, of distraction.
Right.
He was a master manipulator, even in the face of overwhelming evidence.
Wow.
And the prosecution, led by Vincent Bugliosi, had a tough job on their hands.
Yeah.
They needed to cut through the noise, the distractions, and present a clear and compelling case to the jury.
And they did, right.
They did.
All 5 defendants were ultimately found guilty of their roles in the Tate LaBianca murders.
Yes.
What were their sentences?
Initially, all 5 were sentenced to death. But then, in 1972, the California Supreme Court abolished the death penalty, and their sentences were commuted to life in prison.
So they escaped the ultimate punishment.
Right.
What happened to them after that? Did they serve out their sentences,
Yeah.
or were any of them released?
Their fates diverged.
Okay.
Susan Atkins remained imprisoned until her death in 2009.
Wow.
She was denied parole multiple times, even a request for a compassionate release due to her terminal illness.
It seems like she never fully grasped the gravity of her actions, never truly expressed remorse.
Yeah.
What about Patricia Krenwinkel? Did she follow a similar path?
Krenwinkel also remained in prison for decades.
Okay.
She expressed remorse for her crimes and became a model prisoner.
Okay.
But she was still denied parole repeatedly.
So despite her efforts to rehabilitate herself,
Right.
the parole board didn't believe she was fit to re-enter society.
Right. There's always this question, isn't there?
Yeah.
Can someone who committed such heinous acts ever truly be redeemed? Can they ever truly pay their debt to society?
It's a tough question.
It is.
And what about Charles Manson?
Right.
He was the mastermind behind it all.
Yeah.
Did he ever show any sign of remorse, any regret for what he'd done?
Manson remained unrepentant until his death in 2017.
Oh, wow.
He clung to his twisted ideology, his vision of helter-skelter,
Right.
even as he spent the rest of his life behind bars.
It's like he was trapped in his own delusion, unable or unwilling to confront the reality of his crimes.
Yeah.
What about Leslie Van Houten, the youngest of the group?
Okay.
Did she fare any differently?
Van Houten's case is interesting.
Okay.
She was convicted and sentenced to life in prison.
Right.
But she became a vocal advocate for her own rehabilitation.
Okay.
She earned multiple degrees, maintained a clean disciplinary record,
Wow.
and expressed genuine remorse for her actions.
So she took a very different path than Atkins or Manson.
Yes.
She seemed determined to make amends for her past.
Yeah, and after decades of appeals and parole hearings, she was finally released from prison in 2023.
Wow.
Our case is often cited as an example of successful rehabilitation within the criminal justice system.
It's a glimmer of hope in this otherwise dark and disturbing story.
It is.
And what about Tex Watson, the one who's seemed to be the most violent in carrying out the murders?
Yeah.
Did he ever try to distance himself from the Manson family and their ideology?
Watson, while still incarcerated, claims to have found religion and dedicated his life to spreading the gospel.
Really?
He's even written books about his experiences and his newfound faith.
Wow, so a very different path than Manson's unrepentant stance.
Totally.
But has his conversion been enough to earn him parole?
Not so far.
Oh, wow.
Despite his claims of redemption, he's been denied parole multiple times.
Yeah.
His case highlights the complexity of rehabilitation,
Yeah.
the ongoing debate about whether someone who committed such horrific acts can ever truly be forgiven and reintegrated into society.
It's a question that goes beyond just the legal system, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It touches on our deepest beliefs about morality, justice, and the possibility of redemption.
Right.
And it's made even more complicated by the way the Manson family and these murders have become a part of our cultural landscape.
Absolutely. These events transcended the realm of simple crime and became something bigger, something that continues to fascinate and horrify us to this day.
Yeah, it's like they tapped into something primal, something
Sí.
dark and unsettling.
Yeah.
And it's never really let go of our collective imagination. We've walked through like the horrific details, the investigation, the trial. We even touched on like the varying fates of those involved.
Yeah.
But there's this lingering question.
Okay.
Why are we still talking about the Manson family murders over 50 years later?
It's more than just a captivating true crime story, isn't it? There's something about this case that struck a nerve that continues to resonate, across generations.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's because it happened at such a pivotal moment in American history.
Right. The late 1960s were a time of immense change and upheaval.
Totally.
The Vietnam War was dividing the nation.
Right.
The civil rights movement was challenging like these deeply ingrained inequalities, and there was this sense of disillusionment with like traditional authority figures.
Exactly. And out of this cultural and political turmoil emerged the counterculture movement, which embraced peace, love, and a rejection of mainstream values.
Right.
But then the Manson family comes along with their twisted ideology and brutal violence.
Right.
And it feels like a betrayal of those ideals, a perversion of the hippie dream.
It's like a dark mirror held up to the optimism of the era,
Yeah.
shattering the illusion of peace and love.
Totally.
And the public, already grappling with so much uncertainty and change,
Right.
latched on to the Manson family as a symbol of everything that was wrong with society.
It's almost as if they became a convenient scapegoat for a nation struggling to come to terms with its own anxieties. The fear of the other, of those who challenged the status quo, those who embraced alternative lifestyles, it all found a focal point in the Manson family.
And that fear, that sense of unease,
Right.
it didn't disappear with the Manson family's convictions, did it?
Yeah.
It seems like those anxieties have only intensified in the decades since.
You're right. We still see those same anxieties reflected in our culture and our politics, in our fears about societal breakdown and the loss of traditional values. The Manson family murders may have happened over 50 years ago, but the themes they embody, the fear of cults, the fear of charismatic leaders, the fear of the unknown, those fears are timeless, universal.
It makes you wonder if the fascination with the Manson family isn't just about the gruesome details of the crimes,
Right.
but also about what those crimes reveal about ourselves,
Totally.
about our own capacity for darkness and violence.
I think that's at the heart of it.
Yeah.
We're drawn to this case because it forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature, about the potential for evil that exists within all of us.
Right.
It's a reminder that the line between civilization and savagery can be very thin indeed.
And that's perhaps the most enduring legacy of the Manson family murders. They've become a cultural touchstone,
Totally.
a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power, the allure of charismatic leaders, and the fragility of our social fabric.
And the fascination endures. We
Yeah.
keep revisiting the story, retelling it, reinterpreting it through books, films, documentaries, and even fictionalized accounts.
Right.
Each generation finds new meaning in these events, new ways to grapple with the darkness they represent.
You mentioned Helter Skelter, the book written by Vincent Bugliosi, the
Right.
prosecutor in the Manson trial. It's become like a true crime classic.
It is.
What do you think makes that book and
Yeah.
the case in general so enduringly compelling?
Bugliosi's book isn't just a recounting of the facts, it's a psychological thriller, a deep dive into the mind of a madman. And it taps into our fascination with the dark side of human nature, our desire to understand what drives someone to commit such horrific acts.
Yeah.
We want to believe there's a logical explanation, a reason that makes sense.
Right.
But with the Manson family, there's this element of the irrational, the chaotic, that defies easy explanation.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle where the pieces don't quite fit.
Right.
And that ambiguity, that lack of closure, might be part of what keeps us coming back to the story.
Totally.
We keep searching for answers, for meaning, in a case that ultimately defies easy categorization.
Exactly. And in that sense, the Manson family murders have become a kind of Rorschach test for our cultural anxieties.
Yeah.
We project our own fears and interpretations onto this blank canvas of horror, trying to make sense of the senseless.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what final thought would you leave our listener with? What key insights should they take away from this exploration of the Manson family and their crimes?
I'd encourage them to think beyond the sensationalism,
Yeah.
beyond the gruesome details, and consider the deeper questions that this case raises.
Right.
What does it say about our society, about our values, about our capacity for both good and evil?
Yeah.
And what can we learn from this dark chapter in our history to prevent future tragedies?
Right.
Because the Manson family may be gone, but the forces that gave rise to them,
Mm-hmm.
the fears and anxieties that fueled their violence, those forces are still very much alive today.
That's a powerful message, and
Yeah.
one that I think resonates deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And we've started this deep dive looking for answers, for clarity, and I think we found that.
Yeah,
But we've also uncovered even more questions along the way.
totally.
And that's the beauty of exploring a topic like this.
It is.
It challenges us to think critically, to question our assumptions, and to grapple with the complexities of the world around us.
You've summed it up perfectly.
Yeah.
The Manson family murders are a stark reminder that even in the midst of progress and optimism, darkness can lurk in unexpected places. And it's up to each of us to be vigilant, to question the narratives we're told, and to strive to understand the forces that shape our world, both for better and for worse.
Well said. And for you listening, if this deep dive has sparked your interest, I encourage you to continue exploring.
Yeah.
There's a wealth of information out there, books, articles, documentaries,
Right.
even fictionalized accounts that offer different perspectives on this complex and enduringly fascinating case.
Mm-hmm.
Keep digging, keep questioning, and never stop seeking the truth.
Yeah.
Tell us what you think about this episode. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.